So good morning. Microphone works well. Great. So my name is Masami Onoda. Thanks, Kay, for the introduction. It's fantastic to see all of you. I love always talking with SGAC and the young professionals. I see some familiar faces among the crowd, and I'm really happy to be here this morning. So I'll hope that my presentation, I have to click. Okay, good. And yes, so my title is What Do We Do in Space and How Shall We Behave, and who decides that? So I just wanted to make this as easy for you to engage in. And so this is always the question I have and my colleagues that engage in the activities that I'm just going to talk about now. I'll start with the Artemis Accords, since we're going to talk about norms in this session, and we'll be talking about different aspects of that. I will, as an international partner in the Artemis program, I wanted to start with our efforts in the Artemis Accords. This was signed 2020 October at the IAC that year, and Japan was among the 8 initial signatories. And now you can see 23, I believe, in this chart, the flags of countries. So it is countries that signed this, but it's a non-binding. It's what you would call a political declaration. So it's not a binding treaty or anything. We are very glad to be part of this now. So how this came about, you'll see a few politicians smiling in those pictures that we had initially a joint declaration of intent called JEDI, dubbed JEDI, in July 2020. And here we stated that Japan wants to be part of the Artemis program and also send astronauts on the Gateway and to the lunar surface. And a tweet told me in the public general there was a lady who cried seeing this news, that a Japanese would one day land on the moon. And if that has that impact to the public, I think it's a wonderful thing to work on. And so the Artemis Accords was signed, as I said, in October. We did sign the Gateway MOU in December. So over COVID, we were very busy, as you can see. International negotiations, I think we proved that can be done even under hardships like COVID. So we will provide some contributions, and which will be components, ecosystems, and cargo transportation to, much like to the ISS, to the lunar gateway. That will be a platform around the moon and in the lunar orbit. And how we do this is much like the ISS arrangements. We would do a contribution and flight opportunity sort of barter with our partners, especially with NASA, in the lunar orbit as well. And we're just in the process of kind of formulating that scheme. And so we have Kamala Harris, Vice President, and our President Kishida shaking hands. Also, and in Japan, both heads of state, President Biden in front of our lunar rover and satellites. So I think this is also fantastic political high-level recognition as well. Now, lunar surface exploration, of course, this is possible because we have real projects here. So we had 2 demonstration satellites payloads on the SLS, Artemis 1, that was launched last year in November. And we will launch also a pinpoint landing project SLIM, a lunar polar exploration with ISRO, and also onto moon, I mean the Martian moons. It's the Martian moons exploration a probe that will bring samples back from Phobos, the Martian moon, MMX, and of course Gateway, and then on to hopefully a future sustainable exploration on the surface of the moon, and possibly in the future to Mars, so we have all of this in mind. And you will see the pressurized crew rover also on the lunar surface that we hope to have in the very near future launched. So finally, I wanted to close my talk giving you an idea that this next stay on the lunar surface will be not just hopefully a concept, but where we stay with the industry, with international partners. And for that, as some of you may have learned, there is the Outer Space Treaty from the 1960s, and also the Moon Agreement that it has actually not such a large legal relevance today, in a way that in a way that it does not attract many signatories and ratifications, but it does have an impact in the initial way it sought to govern the moon surface activities. And now we are forming the Artemis Accords, which is still non-binding, but we hope to have these norms agreed and worked on in a way that will realize these activities in the future. And so we're now working with our various projects to discuss the CLIPS, the payloads, commercial payloads projects will be there on the lunar surface very soon. This is a reality. So when we get there, what practical problems will happen there in reality, and how would that relate to the principles laid out in the Artemis Accords? And then how would that affect each other's programs? Potentially, if others want to join who are not members of the Artemis Accords, how we will deal with that. And all these implementing rules and arrangements have to be discussed now little by little, step by step, as we have real programs on the moon. So I'll leave it with that, and looking forward to the discussions. Thank you.